the City Club. Another wonderful day here at the Bellingham Yacht Club, and we thank them for this wonderful venue. Been looking forward to today's talk, and it'll be part of a 3-part series here in August, September, and October, getting a chance for us to hear from our candidates who are running for office. My name is Allison Roberts, and I am president of City Club, and I'm honored to be here. I love our mission, and I like to read it every time because it really gives me heart. We are here to inform, connect, and engage our community to strengthen the civic health of our region. And since 1993, we have emphasized civil conversations and listening to others. And in this venue that we're in today, I also would like to honor the Coast Salish peoples. This is their ancestral homelands, and they have lived in this Salish Sea Basin since time immemorial, throughout the San Juan Islands that we treasure and the North Cascades watershed. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and our gratitude for our indigenous neighbors, the Lummi Nation, the Nooksack tribe, for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. I'd also like to thank the many volunteers that make this City Club happen. We have many of them in the room. So just those that help to make this thing happen, please raise your hand. Our program committee, our volunteers, those people who set up the tables. Thank you all. And our gratitude to Talking Crows for providing the video that we have here. And you can also see that online in about a week's time. All of our programs going back many, many, many years are there for you to see, and I hope you share them with your friends and family. Also, thanks to Good Bowls for the delicious food. It's always consistently lovely. And special thanks to Dave Donnelly, who's doing our sound. Isn't it wonderful? Thank you, Dave. For those people that weren't able to attend the program or have a 2-hour lunch during the middle of the week, you can always share the program via email or on your Facebook. We would love to have that promotion because it extends the civic education that we provide here in person today. Some people aren't able to have that privilege to be able to come. So please share these forums so that people can have an informed vote come November. Also, if you have your cell phone, I know everybody's sort of digitally connected, but let's try to disconnect during our meeting today and turn it off or silence it so you don't embarrass yourself and have it go off during the meeting. I would like to recognize our sponsors. They are really important to City Club, and we encourage anyone who's considering perhaps sponsoring us to help us be able to put these programs on. It's not as cheap as it used to be, and we really do rely on their support. So thank you to Peace Health and St. Joseph Medical Center, Baron Quinn Maxwell, Bruce and Claudia Descend, Danny Neal, real estate broker with Molyat Group, Firehouse Arts and Events Center, the Colshan CPAs, Opportunity Council, Pacific Continental Realty, Unity Care, Northwest, Village Books, and thank you for being here, Village Books. We appreciate you having the wonderful collection at several of our meetings lately. Western Washington University, Whatcom Community Foundation, and the Salish Current. And those of you that aren't members, you can join. It's not that expensive. It's only $40 for an individual, $70 for a household. And if you're coming here just for the programs only, that's $10. Today, I know that I would like to have a chance to acknowledge the public servants who are putting themselves on the line to run for office. And I think they play a significant role in our daily lives, but they often do it behind the scenes, sometimes in public places, but it's a lot of work. and to be up on the issues and to be centered in their values and to make decisions in the firestorm that we find ourselves in today is not an easy task. So thank you all for being here, for running for office, for your service if you have already been in that role before. I think we need to know this and recognize it. So as I said, City Club will be doing another forum in September. That will be the fourth Wednesday of September, but mark your calendars. It'll be the third Wednesday of October. And that's so that when the ballots drop, you have the information before you're voting. So the third Wednesday of October. And then we'll be back to the third Wednesday in November as well because of Thanksgiving. All right, so I would like to introduce our moderator today. Where is Jill? Jill Bernstein is Vice President of City Club, and she's also going to be our moderator for today and serves on the program committee that works so hard to bring these programs to us. Thank you all.
Hello, I have your attention. As Allison said, my name is Jill Bernstein, and I will be serving as your moderator today. And there will be our candidates for 2 of the city council races. You know, I'm wearing a mic. If it's not picking it up, then is that better, Sam? All right. Well, I can hold it. That's okay. For 2 of the city council races and 1 of the county council races, you'll be hearing from them each for about 20 minutes for each set of candidates on the issues. And then next month, as Allison said, we will be meeting on the 4th Wednesday, and we will have again the other county council races and city council races. And in October, which is the 3rd Wednesday, it's the port, the initiatives, and learning more about the work of the Charter Review Commission and also about the school levy. So these are all important. You know, I was thinking about what Gloria Steinem said this morning, which is in a democracy, voting is the least we can do. And we know that having an educated vote is really important. And the City Club feels very proud to be sponsoring these forums to give you the opportunity for this education. I'd also like to thank Village Books for being here today. Those of you who haven't looked at the table, there are some great selections about the importance of democracy and how we can all work to strengthen it. But there's also a book on the table from Eileen Flanagan, who will be at Village Books tomorrow night with a book on common ground. And apparently she believes that the climate crisis is something that can help bring us all together from all points on the political spectrum, all part of important civic conversation. I would go further to say, as a member of the program committee for City Club, I want to assure you that we have worked hard to craft questions that will be fair to both candidates, and we hope will shed light on how they will work to resolve the issues that they're called upon to decide if elected. If there are other topics that you would like us to explore at the September and October forums, please reach out and let us know. We're going to do our very best to bring your questions before the candidates. However, today, questions will not come from the audience during the forum. The candidates have been sent the rules in advance, but I will review them one more time. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Our timers, who are right in front of us here with the big signs, can you see them? We'll give a 15-second prompt and then a stop signal. And really, when you see stop, that will be enough. We hope verbal commands will be enough. We will alternate who gets the first question and then repeat the question prior to the second candidate. There will be no closing statements, but we will ask the candidates to take the first 90 seconds to introduce themselves. Direct questioning of your opponents is not allowed. And we are asking that you be as specific as possible with your answers. I call it a blather-free zone. We're going to talk about the issues today, and reminding you that this forum will be recorded and replayed unedited on the Bellingham City Club website. And along with Allison, I just want to say that civic leadership is not easy. It can often be thankless, tiring work, requiring self-sacrifice and deep commitment. As members of City Club, we're going to ask you to please welcome our candidates who have put their name forward to serve our community. And Dave, if you can help me get reset up, please. Thank you. And our first candidates. Our first candidates are the contenders for the county council position that has been up until now represented by Todd Donovan. And I'm going to ask you first, Ms. Morales, to take the first 90 seconds and distinguish yourself from your opponent.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Morales. I am running for Whatcom County Council in District 2. I have lived here since 2018 and have always had family here in Bellingham and the Skagit Valley and the Seattle area. And so these lands are very close to my heart and super sacred, and are one of the most beautiful places I've ever lived, and I've lived in several other countries, so that says something. And I want to appreciate that this is a special spot that is really cared for well by the Indigenous peoples who've cared for it since time immemorial. I also want to just share that I'm currently serving, although most of our work is wrapped up, on the Whatcom County Charter Review Commission for our district, and am proud to have seen that through and did our best to bring forward really interesting proposals. I think we've got a few good ones for you on the ballot this November, and I'm happy to share more about that with folks individually. I wanted to just let folks know that I'm a little bit of an unconventional candidate. I like to do things a little differently in my campaigns. And one of the things I'm offering to voters this year is, instead of sort of like a cookie cutter campaign, top 3 issues style, I'm offering voters my interlacing justice framework of core values. And so I hope you'll check those out on my website, and also happy to answer any questions about those. Thanks for being here today.
And Ms. Boyle.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. It's really great to have met so many of you in the line for lunch and just to see all these friendly faces, so thank you for being here. My name is Elizabeth Boyle, and I, too, am running for District 2, North Bellingham. I've lived here in Whatcom County, District 2, for 25 years. My husband and I have raised our 2 sons here. One of my sons is here today, and he's actually our campaign manager, so that's a fun opportunity for both of us. And for the first 20 years of living here, I was a small business owner, actively engaged in our schools with the PTA, and then worked alongside the Bellingham Schools Foundation to really promote equity throughout our school district. And then the last 5 years, I've worked alongside a number of nonprofits and local government to really address a lot of our biggest issues that are facing us today. Everything from housing to the opioid fentanyl crisis, youth mental health, and supporting environmental advocacy through Children of the Setting Sun. And I feel so proud and grateful that I've gotten to meet and know so many people through that work. And I bring a strong sense of collaboration to everything I do. And I'm grateful that that collaboration is being really recognized by a lot of community organizations and elected leaders. We've earned the endorsements of Mayor Kim Lund and many of our elected officials, as well as a lot of community organizations, such as the firefighters and the teachers, the Nooksack Tribe and Lummi Nation, which are both super important to me. And I'm looking forward to today's conversation. Thank you so much for having us here.
Well, thank you both. And the first question will go to Ms. Boyle. The county is currently facing a budget shortfall. What are your plans to balance the budget?
It's a great question. It's not easy. We're seeing budget constraints coming from the feds, from the state government, and certainly local. It's interesting. We were just meeting about this the other day, and there's no easy answer. I think that it's nice to see the departments are currently doing an exercise to see how they can reduce their funding. When I think about values and how my values would show up around a budget constraints, is to make sure those that are most marginalized do not lose access to services. An area of work that I feel especially called to care for is our unsheltered neighbors. And I want to make sure that we actually strengthen those opportunities to care for our neighbors. So I think we'll have to think about what long-term projects that maybe we can't do today if we have to make some budget constraints. But I have a strong sense of caring for people, and I don't want to reduce services that for our most marginalized communities.
And Ms. Morales.
Do you want to restate the question, or do you want me to?
Yes, and thank you. The county is currently facing a budget shortfall. What is your plan to balance the budget?
Thanks. Yeah, this is one of the toughest questions for every candidate and lawmaker at every level, I think. So I was just having a conversation about FEMA funding yesterday with one of the folks who does the CERT organizing. And, you know, we've got some pretty, we've got some serious times ahead. And I think for me, one of the most important things in terms of balancing the budget is not just ensuring that all of our like essential and basic services that are, as you said, Elizabeth, really helping to hold folks who are in the most precarious positions in our community. Unhoused folks, certainly, I think we need to really shore up our support for our LGBTQ plus community right now. We really need to make sure that nobody is going hungry. I think we have a lot of community efforts already in place in our county that are addressing these, and I think we need to strengthen those. So I think this is really going to be about being creative, about new sources of revenue that don't fall on the hardest on poor people, but it's also going to be about being creative about how community can actually be engaged in new ways. Because I think we've seen a lot of great things with committees and working boards, but I think we're going to need to see a lot more collaboration. So that is one of the things I'm looking forward to, is trying to figure out how to involve people more in the budgeting process and make sure that we actually prioritize what we are spending money on and what's in our budget on a real sort of, collaborative framework where people have chosen into that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Got the stop sign.
And this one, we will start with you, Ms. Morales. What role should Whatcom County Council members play in the Nooksack Basin water adjudication process?
Yeah, so I think that this is an area where there are a lot of both needs and feelings. And there are also some really complex sets of laws going on. And so I think one of the really important things in our county is to make sure that we're hearing from all sides and also looking to the future. I think someone mentioned climate justice. And so I think, there's a real need to kind of respect everybody's different positionality here while also recognizing we're all in this together. And we do need to make sure that we are attending to, federal sovereign nations' rights at the same time as we are looking forward to the future and handling, we've got to have enough water, we've got to have enough potable water, we have to make sure that our climate and our whole ecosystem is supported. And we need to do it in ways that are legal and that are not exploiting any particular group. And so I think the county council really plays this role of balancing and moderating and ensuring that there's also good adherence to current laws. So that's what I would say. I think it's really about balance. I also want to say that I think, there's been some pushback in terms of building housing, watershed issues. I think we need to really get everybody at the table and come to an understanding as to how to protect our resources while also making sure that we're accommodating all of the building that we do need to do of housing. And so I think there are lots of great paths forward here. I just think it's about having all voices at the table.
And Ms. Boyle, what role should Whatcom County Council members play in the Nooksack Basin water adjudication process?
Thank you for repeating it. This is a really interesting question. I know you all had some speakers here a couple months ago about it. So it's a tricky situation, but one that is governed really by the Department of Ecology. And so when I think about the process, I think about what's our role in caring for people during it. I think there's a lot of fear, unknowns, and that's one of the roles that the council can play, is making sure there's adequate education and communication around this tricky issue, making sure that there are some legal supports in place. I know there's some funding being set aside for that. And then I also think about, certainly we need to make sure we're bringing people, I agree with Maya about bringing people to the table, but I also wonder then, what else can we be doing to care for that water during this process? This process is likely to take decades. So how can we be thinking about the quality and quantity of the water in the Nooksack River? And that's up to all of us. So we can be thinking about preserving those forests, those old growth and legacy forests that protect our water and keep the water cool for our salmon. So there's a lot of things in the process of the legalities. There's also a lot of other good work we can be doing to care for that water and consequently the salmon. So, yeah.
And Ms. Boyle, so first to you.
Great.
The council currently serves as the public health board for the county. What do you see as the most important public health challenges for Whatcom County? And how can they best be addressed? And what priorities should drive setting the budget and deploying resources? Is that too many words?
I have to be honest. I was a little, okay, can you read it one more time for me?
I can. Yes, I'm hearing it. I'm like, okay, sure. The council currently serves as the public health board for the county.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the most important public health challenges for Whatcom County? And how can they best be addressed? What priorities should drive setting the budget and deploying resources?
I'll take at least a part of the question. Okay. I think this is a really important question. Public health, I think, is on everyone's minds and certainly something that means a lot to me. I think of two issues in particular. To me, housing is the foundation for health. Everyone deserves a safe place to call home at night, and it helps all of us build towards a safer, healthier future. So when I think of public health, I think of housing. I think of all the different levels of housing. And then secondly, I think of behavioral health. It is the cornerstone of so many issues in our community. I work around youth mental health in particular, and I watch these youth that are they have this beautiful, bright future ahead of them, and yet they don't yet have the behavioral health supports around them. We're looking at the Justice Project at the moment. Maybe we'll have a question about that in a minute, but think about behavioral health services, the dollars that are assigned in the tax levy for that, and making sure that we assure that that money is going to be allocated to behavioral health. Those two pieces to me are the two most critical pieces of public health.
Yeah. And so, Ms. Morales, would you like to hear the question also?
Probably would help.
The council currently serves as the public health board for the county. What do you see as the most important public health challenges for Whatcom County? And how can they best be addressed? And what priorities should drive setting the budget and deploying resources?
Okay, I'm going to take a crack at that. So one of the things I know about our county health board is that there's been an ongoing conversation about the need for more actual health experts on that board, and how to possibly change the makeup of the board. And I do think that it's important to address that, in terms of answering this question, because I think that points to the fact that we have some unmet needs and that we've got a lot more work to do. I see Leah. Yes. Nodding her head. I think, so I think bottom line, we need to have more robust conversations as part of that county health board. I myself took a spin through our website recently looking at how to help a trans person access care. What did our website have? Honestly, it just led me in a circle and there was literally nothing there for my community. And I found that really disturbing. So I think one of the issues is figuring out what are our most targeted and precarious communities and how are we supporting them and how are we making sure that our county health board and all of our systems that are connected to that board are actually working and actually have safety nets for folks. Another thing, I think there's kind of a grass tops versus a grassroots approach to this. I think I'm obviously more of a grassroots approach person. It's easy to talk about the sort of systemic side of this, the behavioral health stuff, the jail stuff, the kind of top-down housing policy, but I actually really think we need to target poverty. To me, I want us to really target economic well-being for folks, because that is the stuff that then plays out as behavioral health, as addiction, as no housing down the road. And so I see a stop sign. I'm going to stop there.
But both of you mentioned the jail and behavioral health center. We know that it will be years before a new jail and behavioral health center are completed. Maybe it will be beyond the first term of anyone who is elected in this cycle. So what do you want to do, specifically what do you want to do to address the problems of drug and alcohol addiction and mental health problems in the interim? And with that, we'll start with Ms. Morales.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm glad this is the following question because that kind of dovetails with what I was just saying, which is I think, it's really important to have honest conversations about financial well-being in our community and the fact that, we have over 50% of our county and definitely Bellingham that is cost burdened and cannot afford all bills every month. That's a big deal. And when you think about the way that that plays out in people's lives, particularly when there's, kids involved, elder care, there's just a lot here. If our health safety nets are also failing people, it's just a kind of an intersectional web of issues that people are facing when they do not have enough money to pay the bills and thrive. And so to me, one of the things that we need to be doing in the next couple of years is just working really, really hard to figure out how to financially stabilize folks. So that's not just housing, that's also making sure that our food system and our food plan is really robust because we are also going to be dealing with more and constant threats, right? We're going to be dealing with more federal cuts and more federal pressure. And so the need for us to really just shore up people's well-being and make sure we're creating, sort of mutual care, mutual aid, and networks of support is really vital and really critical. I think that is gonna be really necessary in this time ahead of the jail situation. I also just want to point quickly, I know I'm gonna get a stop sign again, that I don't agree that carceral systems are the solution. And I think, often if you've looked at our jail plan, that the data actually shows that most of the people in our carceral system have been unhoused.
I have to say thank you.
So I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Ms. Boyle, it will be years before a new jail and a behavioral health center are completed. What do you want to do to address the problems of drug and alcohol addiction and mental health problems in the interim?
I'd like to build on Maya's answer about affordability. That's certainly an issue that is plaguing a lot of people in our community. And when we think about the cost of childcare, the cost of housing, all of this contributes to making Whatcom County a really hard place to live if you don't have a lot of means. But specifically, I'm thinking back to, I'm a huge fan of the behavioral health dollars. And I think the jail should always be our last resort. So I think actually in the meanwhile, we have this amazing opportunity to keep reimagining what the criminal justice system looks like. And so when we're thinking about reentry, when folks have spent time in jail or folks that have, so I'll specifically talk about that aspect. I do some work around conversations with our system providers and thinking about what are our current systems doing or not doing to help people when they're going through very difficult challenges. And reentry after serving time in jail is a really hard time. It's a time when we can say, we're here for you, and we're gonna make this next step a better choice because we probably failed you before jail, we failed you probably in jail, and we have an opportunity to do better together as a community. So when I think of second chances, I actually think the second chance is a lot on us. And so what opportunity do we have to ensure housing is available when people exit jail? What do we do about employment? And so second chance employment is something that all of us can be thinking about. How do we become friendlier to folks that maybe don't have an easiest background, but they may be exactly the right employee that you're looking for?
We're going to take time for two more questions.
Great.
The first one, Ms. Boyle, will be, District 2 sits entirely within the city of Bellingham and has been identified as the focus for most of the projected growth in Whatcom County. What actions will be required to manage the challenges related to this growth from your point of view?
Yes. How lucky that we are in such a beautiful area and so many people want to move here. And we better do everything we can to be ready for the people that are already here and the people that are moving here. So when I think of District 2 in particular, I think of a lot of opportunities to maximize their infill and density. And I also think about, what about public transportation and building walkable communities? How can we reduce the need for the reliance for single car transportation when we are building and continue to evolve for more housing, more transportation opportunities? Let's keep thinking about what it is we want to have for the next generation. We want a community that not everyone has to drive a car by themselves. We want more public transportation, which requires less parking, which requires less carbon emissions. So all these things build together. Like, I think this is a beautiful opportunity for us to be really thoughtful and just maximizing the housing opportunities in our district as well as the transportation opportunities that circle that.
And Ms. Morales, the same question. District 2 sits entirely within the city of Bellingham and has been identified as the focus for most of the projected growth in Whatcom County. What action will be required to manage the challenges related to this growth from your perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a managing challenges question. I think the county has a lot to do here in terms of infrastructure. I think you pointed to transportation. That's a really big one. One of the things that I really think about when we look at transportation and the intersection of housing and transportation is the idea of transit-oriented development. But I also feel like there are ways in which we can build density around current transit lines or future, hubs. But we also really need to think about who's already in our community and whether they have access already to transit. So to me, this is a balance of really making sure that folks who are, in marginalized communities particularly often get left behind in terms of this sort of future thinking transit-oriented development. And so I think we really need to be sure that we're balancing all of our community's needs while we build that growth, because there is a lot that is exciting about growing. And I think, there'll be some other things that'll have to, be dealt with infrastructurally, right? Around just having greater density, having greater stress upon all of our systems. So I'm, excited to do that work. I also think that there are land use, there are code issues that can change. I'm excited to thinking about in terms of like more bikeability and different kinds of transportation, making sure that that's actually accessible and that's actually doable for a lot of seniors and folks who have different abilities. So I think there's a lot of great stuff here. And yeah, that's what I would say.
And for our final question, and I am sorry because I think there's so much more for us to talk about, but we'll start with Ms. Morales. Does there currently exist an appropriate balance of power between the executive and the council? If not, what changes need to occur to bring this balance closer to your vision?
Thank you for that question. This is the Charter Review Commission wrestled with this quite a lot this year. And so I've had many conversations about this. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to a lot of the procedural ways that our county works. And, this even came down to conversations about, who staff reports to. Do they report to the exec? Do they report to council? So there are all these little things that we sort of played out, could we try this? Could we try that? Ultimately, we ended up proposing an ombuds department or sort of person that would be independent and could at least help be a source for like independent legal analysis and a place where people could go with their issues that they didn't feel they could address directly with council or within the executive offices. That was one way. There was another charter review amendment put forward to sort of like clarify the powers among departments. So there are a lot of different things we've attempted. I would ultimately like to say this. I think it's really important that we ensure that there is a balance, because I'd hate for us to, in our efforts to make sure that our exec is not overly powerful, that then we then create a council that can't, that is also overly powerful. So we do need to maintain that balance. I think that's important. And I think when we're thinking about balance of power and governance, we always have to think about not just who's currently in office, but what that could look like in the future, right? We need to actually project that forward to any unknown person that's holding that role, whether that's in a council context or in an exec context. So to me, there's just some democracy work that needs to happen there. And I think we've put forward a few solutions, and I think there may be more. One of the things I proposed was town halls to make sure there was a little more contact with people.
That's all the time we have for you. Thank you so much. And Ms. Boyle, does there currently exist an appropriate balance of power between the executive and the council? If not, what changes need to occur to bring this balance closer to your vision?
Thank you for that question. It's interesting. As not someone that's serving on council, neither Maya or I are serving. So it's interesting. What we're learning is just from secondhand information, or what we're seeing is secondhand information. I'd be curious to better understand a little bit about some of the dynamics, but my understanding is that, I'm sorry, I flustered on that one all of a sudden. I apologize. I guess I'm always looking at power and curious about how we divide power. And I'm hopeful that if elected, that we have a strong relationship with the executive and are able to make sure that the council and the executive's office do work in partnership. My understanding right now is that both the chief executive officers or chief executive assistants are doing an amazing job for the council and are really able to help with a lot of great information. But I'm going to build on what Maya said. I think there's a lot of opportunity for more participatory democracy, period, and that the more people that are involved, it's not just a question of power of the council and power of the executive, but it's power of the people that live here, the people that are impacted by the answers. So I'd say it's all three need to be thinking out where the power sits.
Well, thank you to both of you. And let's have a quick set change, and let's have let's see. Are we ready? Can you hear me now? Okay. So we're going to have everybody. Thank you. So we're going to start just a little differently today, and because in fact, Ms. Huthman is an incumbent, and Ms. Wainman is looking to replace her. So as the incumbent, I'm going to ask you, why should you be reelected?
Are we going to start with intros?
You can make that all part of your introduction.
Oh, okay.
Why should you be reelected?
Wonderful. Okay. I'm Holly Huthman. I'm currently your Ward 2 representative on the Bellingham City Council, and I'm looking to be reelected because I really feel like we're at a turning point in our city. We're on the precipice of having some amazing change, and I want to be a part of helping to make that happen. I'm a longtime downtown Bellingham business owner. I'm a parent of small children. I'm a musician. I'm a big fan of our arts and music communities downtown, as well as just our creative culture in general. I want to make sure that everybody who wants to live here is able to afford to live here. It's why I started on council. That's why I want to continue doing it. During my time on council, I've worked to legalize diverse housing types, bring new affordable and income restricted housing into the city, as well as protect our 9 mobile home parks, one of which formed a co-op and was able to actually purchase the land that they live on, which is amazing. In terms of public safety, I'm somebody that champions the balance of accountability with compassion. I voted to form the alternative response team, the community court, and believe in supporting other programs like that. I am a leader who believes that strong relationships is how we really make effective change happen. And that's why I'm endorsed by Mayor Lund, Senator Sharon Shoemake, and other colleagues. Thank you.
And Ms. Wainman, why should Ms. Huthman be replaced? Why should the incumbent be replaced and you be elected?
All right. Well, I'm going to start with what I think we can't get enough of is gratitude. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to the City Club today. I want to thank everyone here for standing tall for local democracy. It is so important that we do that now more than ever. I am someone who is also excited to be here because I think 50 years ago, having someone like me talk to you all about running for office would be so unheard of. And that's just a testament to our democracy. I don't come from people who have money or wealth. I am the first person in my family to graduate from high school, to go to college, and let alone get a grad degree and own a home. I do come from people with strong values and what it means to work hard. That was installed in me at an early age. Hard work, respect, and a deep love for democracy. So I'm Leah Wainman, and I'm running to represent Ward 2 on the Bellingham City Council. I've been a Peace Corps volunteer, a health educator, I'm currently an epidemiologist. I'm a mom of 2 amazing little girls growing up in this city. I'm a wife for 15 years, and I've seen Bellingham thrive and welcome my small growing family. And I want to make sure that Bellingham doesn't shut its doors to people, to single moms, to seniors on fixed
I'm
income.
sorry, that's all our time, but thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll start with you for the first question that we have today, which is that Bellingham is growing rapidly, and this growth has brought many changes. We know where we are now. Please describe your vision for future Bellingham and how we will get there.
Well, thank you for that question, because that just allows me to continue my intro speech. So in the past 6 years, I've seen Bellingham grow dramatically. I've seen Bellingham also close its doors to some people as it's been growing, to single moms who earn pretty good money, who are professionals, to seniors on fixed incomes who want to move to this city so they can help take care of their grandchildren because childcare is so unaffordable. I want a city where everyone is welcome. I want Bellingham to leave its door open. I want to make sure that people like me, working families, people like you can move here and thrive. I know that bee hamsters, people who live here in Bellingham want that as well. And I want to see policies enacted that ensure that Bellingham leaves its door open.
So, Ms. Huthman, I'll repeat the question, which is Bellingham is growing rapidly, and this growth has brought many changes. We know where we are now, but please describe your vision for future Bellingham and how we will get there.
Absolutely. The growing Bellingham is the reason that I started running for city council in the first place. Bellingham kept me here after I went to college because of our thriving creative community. And I started to notice that our housing supply was getting a little bit tight, and the people in my community were having a hard time competing for a limited number of units. And I didn't want the people who made the reason that I stayed in Bellingham to leave. The creative people, the artists, the musicians, the nonprofit workers, the people working in your coffee shops and your bars. And so what we need, what I've envisioned, is that we have an abundance of housing choice so that everybody who wants to live here can live here and finds a housing type in a place that they want to live in the city that meets their needs. That's for seniors being able to live at home. My grandmother grew up in a lovely little community of cottage homes on the East Coast. We don't really have a lot of that type of housing here. I want to see, duplexes, triplexes. I want to see boarding house types that we used to see a lot more of that we don't see. So it's that choice element so that everybody has the choice for the type of housing that they need. And I think the rest falls into place from there. Thank you.
And so, Ms. Huthman, the next question will be yours, and to start with, and then both of you be as specific as you can be with your answers. And so, Ms. Huthman, what should government do to bring more people to our urban core and to support businesses that are located downtown?
I have a little bit of an unfair advantage on this one. I have a business downtown. I spend pretty much every day downtown. And I think that the one thing that the city can really do, and the one thing that the city does pretty well, is using our lodging tax dollars to create events downtown that bring people there, to create opportunities for art, to make our city more exciting. I think that also includes making it easy to access downtown, making it easy to move around downtown. So ensuring that our transportation amenities are there, whether you're walking, biking, driving, however it is that you get into the city, we make it accessible and safe for everybody. And I think that that when we bring life into downtown, it supports the businesses downtown just by generating traffic, which in turn supports our employees, who can then put that support back into the downtown that they love being in as well.
Okay, and Ms. Wainman also, what should government do, be specific as you can be, to bring more people to our urban core and to support the businesses that are located in the downtown?
I appreciate that question. And I think the role of government is to create an environment where people and businesses can thrive throughout this city. I know that I live on Northwest Avenue and I see businesses closing left and right, and I see boarded up doors and boarded up buildings, and our Rite Aid just closed. There's no grocery store. And I do appreciate all of the art and investments that have taken place downtown to attract people to that specific location. I would also say that on Northwest Avenue, I have a friend who moved from Philadelphia, which is a bigger city. And so wanting to take public transportation, but the public transportation doesn't run at a regular pace for her to get from Northwest Avenue to the apartment that she could afford to Western Washington University, where she works. And so one way that we can support people is make sure that we have infrastructure in place like public transportation, as we're removing parking minimums, making sure that we're investing in public transportation so that biking, walking, and taking that infrastructure is available to people. I also think that as we're looking at investments and attracting folks from not only Bellingham, but from around the region, we want to make sure that we're investing our arts and resources in a culturally appropriate way that reflects the diversity that exists not only in Bellingham, but around Bellingham, and the wonderful immigrant communities that are bringing their arts and culture, and how can we be more inclusive as we're allocating those resources.
So thank you. And Ms. Wainman, for you first, planners estimate that the county's population will grow by 30% by 2045. Is there a way to provide the necessary housing for this population increase and preserve the character of Bellingham and save our agricultural lands? If so, what is your vision and how will we achieve this?
Oh, that's a perfect. In my mind, I'm a visual thinker, so I think of a Venn diagram of like, where is the absolute perfect, where those three circles converge. And it is a challenging thing for sure. And I also want to dial into, what do you mean when you say our culture of Bellingham, and what does that look like now versus what it looked like, gosh, at the turn of the 20th century when my children's great-grandparents moved here, and what will it look like 30 years from now as our children are more diverse and from different regions around the country and the world. And so the culture of Bellingham will inevitably change over time, and how can we be responsive to that change? But I think it's important, and something that we've spoken to today, is make sure that we have everybody at the table as we're making these decisions around how we want to grow and who do we want to grow for, and also who do we want to be here, not only today, but in the future, ensuring that everyone is there making those decisions with us, which is why it's so important that we have participatory democracy, so that when we're making decisions about the future, that we're not only thinking about what's happening today, but what do we want our city to look like in the future. I really appreciate the concept of having boards and commissions, and I think that's important, but how can we engage more and be more out in the community with the people to understand what their needs are? And before we make decisions, we have forums and we have more conversations with people to understand what the real life impact of those decisions are going to be on them.
So Ms. Huthman, the same question, which is, planners estimate that the county's population will grow by 30% by 2045. Is there a way to provide the necessary housing for this population increase and preserve the character of Bellingham and save our agricultural lands? If so, what is your vision of how we will achieve this?
Yeah, being in the city council seat means that you get real familiar with balance. It's imperative. And we, in the city of Bellingham, we see about 1,300 to 1,400 people move here every year. This has been really consistent population growth over the years, yet we didn't build housing to keep up with that population growth. And that's why we're seeing a crunch. And when we see that kind of crunch, it's the people at the lowest income levels that feel it the most. So, as I was saying before, we need an abundance of housing choice. We need to catch up. First, we need to keep up, and then we need to continue to catch up with the incoming population. As has been mentioned, we can't shut the gate on Bellingham. Unfortunately and fortunately, we live in a really incredible place. And we need to make sure that people at all income levels can live here, not just the wealthy. And so we need to continue to do zoning updates that make our zoning landscape less complicated. It's quite complicated with 460 subzones currently. We need to continue to legalize different housing choices. There again, it should be options for everybody to meet their needs. Excuse me, and we need to make sure that these rules apply throughout the city so that I have a stop sign.
Oh, okay. Thank you. But the next question will be yours to start with, which is, what will be your strategy for addressing Bellingham's projected $10 million budget shortfall? And please be specific about the action that you will advocate and how this strategy will bring the budget into balance.
Sure. Yeah. $10 million. That's a lot of money. And I think the reason that you see us all kind of get a little scrunched up is because when we're talking about a $10 million budget shortfall, we're really talking about the general fund. And when you're talking about the general fund, you're really talking about jobs. That is the majority of what we fund through the general fund, with largely sales tax dollars. And so the reason for this budget shortfall is that sales taxes are not keeping up with what was projected. And this is not unique to Bellingham. And everything has just gotten more and more expensive. And so when we're talking about what are we going to do to fill this hole, it's either we need more revenue or we need to spend less, and spending less means spending less on jobs. So two things that are really important to me in having these conversations. As a city, we need to focus on our core responsibilities. As a city, we need to provide clean water. We need to make sure that we're responsibly taking care of that water when it goes down the drain. Okay, core responsibilities. Number two, we have the option before us to use a 0.1% sales tax that next year would cover $4 million of that budget shortfall. So.
Thank you. And Ms. Wainman, the same question, which will be, what will be your strategy for addressing Bellingham's $10 million budget shortfall? Please be specific about the action that you will advocate and how this strategy will bring the budget into balance.
Thank you for that question. And it is absolutely timely as we are thinking about this up and down the different levels of government. At the state where I work, we had a $20 million budget shortfall that we had to come to terms with. And so this is not, unfortunately, anything new for me and my work. And as I'm thinking about it, it is kind of what do we value? And we value people. And so making sure that we're able to provide the basic services that the city is obligated to provide to keep people safe and healthy. And the jobs, the people that do those jobs, we value those jobs, and we want to make sure that we can keep those safe. And the third thing that the city does support our community services, and how can we make sure that our communities, those that are going to be impacted, not only direct people, but our community-based organizations in this city that provide services, how can we make sure that we are looking at budgets that don't impact them so dramatically? And one thing that we do, if we're going to keep our infrastructure in place and we're going to keep jobs, the one thing that we can do, and something that we do at the state and for foundational public health services, is bring the parts of the system together and say, hey, this is what we're looking at budget-wise, and how can we come together to decide what is needed and where can we put those funds. And then before we start looking at increased revenue, making sure that we're being as efficient as possible with the funds that we are asking and have from people.
Okay, time for one more quick question. And it will be years before a new jail and behavioral treatment center are completed. What strategies do you want to employ now to reduce the use of illegal, harmful drugs in our community and to better serve those who are suffering from mental health problems? And Ms. Wainman, we'll start with you.
Thank you for that question. And it is very important as the impacts of behavioral health ripple throughout our community and our systems and the people that they serve. I would reiterate and look at what are we doing now and what's working well, and how are we investing behavioral health funds, our mental health tax now, and how can we be better? And one thing that we can do as a city to position ourselves to have these conversations is look at how can we be more a part of the conversations around behavioral health, which is in the public health realm. And one opportunity we have in front of us to look at expanding the Board of Health to include not only communities impacted, but also to include small cities and the city of Bellingham to be a real partner in those conversations around policies that we can create, and look at how are we investing funds and how are those workings and how can we be more efficient with those funds before we go asking for more. I think there's lots of opportunity to leverage being on that Board of Health and from a policy lens to look at improving outcomes for folks. It's a complex problem, and it's very important that we have everybody at the table again, and the city of Bellingham and the Board of Health would be a great opportunity to make that happen. I also want to make sure that we are providing enough funds for prevention. I think prevention is the one way that we can avoid all of the downstream efforts, all of the downstream impacts that we're seeing today. And so how are we preventing, how are we supporting families, people living in poverty so that they don't I got a stop sign.
And Ms. Huthman, for you also, a final answer. It will be years before a new jail and behavioral treatment center are completed. What strategies do you want to employ now to reduce the use of illegal, harmful drugs in our community and to better serve those who are suffering from mental health problems?
Sure, absolutely. Well, one proven method of truly helping folks in our community that might be suffering from substance use disorder that the city does have a hand in is with the alternative responses like ART and GRACE and LEAD. Those programs have a proven record of reducing hospital visits as well as jail visits significantly for their participants. That is money well spent. That's one of those areas where I would not want to see any funding cut, because our community is saving money by investing in those programs that truly help people get the kinds of resources that they need to address their challenges. I think that we also have a great partnership now with the Dijwalik organization with bringing Suboxone and methadone treatment here to Bellingham. They have buses that can provide medically assisted treatment now to I think it's in the hundreds, and they still have capacity to help people in need. I think those are two great resources that we currently have that have capacity to expand as long as they have the funding.
Well, thank you to both of you. We appreciate everything. We're ready.
Hold on.
And if you're ready, I'm ready. So thank you to both Mr. Skip Williams, who is the incumbent, and Ms. Burnside, who is challenging the incumbent. And as I ask the first two candidates, instead of a traditional opening introduction, I'm going to ask you to take the first 90 seconds as the incumbent, Mr. Williams, and tell us why you should be reelected.
Well, I am Skip Williams, and I am your Ward 4 Bellingham City Councilman. Now, I've lived in this community for 31 years, and most of my service to this community, which is one of my fundamental values, service to my community, has been in the nonprofit world. 12 of those years have been as a member of this board, and 7 of those years has been as president and vice president of this board. I am committed to service to this community. And when people first asked me to run 4 years ago, they had confidence in my skills and my relationships and my ability to bring people together to come to the right answers. I said things like, I don't have the right answers to all these questions. And they said, you have the skill to make these things happen and to help the problems that we face develop into strategically defined processes and durable ordinances and policies. That's why I'm running. I want to continue that work.
And Ms. Burnside, welcome. As the challenger, why should the incumbent be replaced and you elected?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Burnside, and I'm running for Bellingham City Council Ward 4. I've spent the last 40 years, dating myself, very civically involved in this community, beginning with advocating for a new aquatic center, Arnie Hanna, to today, Silver Beach Neighborhood Association president. In those 40 years, I've put in thousands and thousands of hours as a volunteer working for this community, as a volunteer firefighter, to name many, but I've volunteered with many organizations in that 40 years. Bellingham's, I do want to share, I have the sole endorsement of the 40th and 42nd LD Democrats, the LGBTQ plus Victory Fund, many unions, and also the Sierra Club. So I'm very, very honored to have that huge support. And when we look at how many challenges Bellingham is facing, things like public safety, homelessness, the fentanyl crisis, lack of living wages, and lack of affordable housing, this has really encouraged me to run because I bring lots of experience, skills, passion, and know-how to assist with these things. And I'm really looking forward to being able to take my experience in process improvement and change management and put them to good work here at City Hall. Thank you.
And Ms. Burnside, we'll start the first question with you, which is, we know Bellingham is growing rapidly, and this has brought many changes. In your opinion, what changes have been beneficial and which have been detrimental? And what action should government take in response to the problems caused by change?
Boy, that's not a loaded question. A lot of changes. You're asking for good changes, bad changes, and what can we do? When I think about, so I grew up here. And for those of you that may or may not remember, back in 1986 when the mall opened, it devastated our downtown. And we recovered from that. It's taken a lot of work, and we've seen Bellingham revitalize. We're again facing different challenges where once again downtown is struggling. This time, simply having art and culture to draw people downtown, we have bigger issues of lack of affordable housing that our seniors, those on a fixed income, working individuals, families with children cannot afford to live in this town, and that has to be addressed. And when we look at the growth strategy, the requirements of House Bill 1220, we definitely, the city and the mayor's executive order is doing a really good job of making the changes that the state has said these are the minimum requirements around making it easy to build more housing. Where we fall short and need to improve on is the housing that's 80% AMI and below. That's going to take non-market housing, things like public land trusts. It's going to take Habitat for Humanity, tiny homes. We're going to have to really get creative on how we provide the housing that the people here today can afford. Thank you.
And Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Bellingham is growing rapidly, and this has brought many changes. In your opinion, what changes have been beneficial, which have been detrimental, and what actions should government take in response to the problems caused by change?
Well, when I first came here, Bellingham was at about 41,000 people, maybe 45. Now we're pushing 100. And the biggest challenges that I see that have already been spoken to is our challenges about providing effective housing for people, for all of our residents. We're in the process of taking on those issues, changing our zoning requirements and other regulations that we can, that will hopefully encourage the development of all housing forms and units in our city, and working together with our county cohorts to also have a more coordinated approach to the development of housing and these issues. We're looking at our urban growth areas. We're looking at how they react, how they work with the urban growth areas around us. But the goal is to build enough housing units, multifamily, single family, all of that in an integrated way to meet the need.
And Mr. Williams, the next question will start with you, which is, what can government do to further support and enhance retail businesses in Bellingham, the mom and pop operations, and to make the community attractive to people who want to start businesses inside and beyond the downtown?
Well, okay. Part of that answer is us going to a more urban village structure where all of those items that you mentioned will be incorporated into the urban village and create a sense of neighborhood, create a sense of ownership, and once again, develop those things so that we can live in this city in a very productive way. But I believe that is the main answer, is the way that we're moving.
And Ms. Burnside, what can government do to further support and enhance retail businesses in Bellingham, the mom and pop operations, and to make the community attractive to people who want to start businesses inside and beyond the downtown?
We need affordable housing. To support mom and pop businesses, they're going to pay minimum wage jobs. Was currently raised to $18.66 an hour. That makes an individual earning minimum wage working full-time eligible for a $970 a month housing unit. What no one is talking about is that doesn't exist. The average one-bedroom apartment is $1,400 to $1,700 a month. The current approach is going to help streamline bringing more houses online, but as Skip mentioned, hopefully developers will build the housing at the price point that we desperately need. Hopes and prayers towards housing is not going to keep people housed. It won't give them the discretionary spending that they can spend downtown to support small businesses. They take an individual that is having to put too much of their income on housing is having to rely on food bank and other services. It's fiscally irresponsible, the approach that we are taking. We need non-market housing that brings housing at the price point that our plans, that are improving capacity, are not providing the price point that we need. That's non-market housing, land trusts, public development authority, Habitat for Humanity, community co-ops. There's so many things we can be doing that we're not doing. Thank you.
And so, Ms. Burnside, first for you, what will be your strategy for addressing Bellingham's $10 million budget shortfall? And please be specific about the action that you will advocate and how this strategy will bring the budget into balance.
Thank you. I formerly worked for a huge corporation, largest actually in the world in that industry, and we faced massive budget shortfalls frequently. So one of the first questions I would ask is, do we have a spending problem or do we have an income revenue problem? And so I would want to look at that filter before we start talking about layoffs and cuts, is look at, where does the problem lie? If we have a spending problem, let's start fixing that and address it, clearly identifying where we can streamline, pause on hiring, pause on non-essential services, and make sure that we are still being able to support the essential services. Emergency response, our mental health support. We're also looking at cuts from federal grants that we typically do, block grants that we do pass-throughs to our nonprofit agencies that provide a lot of our essential services. So we want to ask the community, we need you to step up. We need you to volunteer. We need you to donate to these nonprofits, because the city of Bellingham is not going to have the capacity to backfill what nonprofits are going to lose from those block grants. So again, where's the problem? Is it a spending or is it a revenue? Let's address the spending issues and support our essential services. Thank you.
And Mr. Williams, what will be your strategy for addressing Bellingham's $10 million budget shortfall? Please be specific.
Okay.
Please be specific about the action that you will advocate and how this strategy will bring the budget into balance.
Well, first of all, we, as everyone knows, we don't have the luxury of a deficit budget. And so this $10 million deficit is huge. We do have the luxury of having some dedicated funds, and as has been mentioned before, that takes some of the pressure off of our general fund, the home fund, the greenways levy, income sources like that. We are at the beginning of the process. We are going to have an initial budget presented to us by the end of the month, at the end of next month. And then from there, we will be having budgeting and public hearings and work sessions. But what has to happen, as has been said, is to prioritize our core functions of the city and retaining as much jobs and employees as possible. Saving people and not things. Making sure that cruel austerity is not the answer, but that we seek other funding opportunities when available, like the 0.1% sales tax that has been mentioned, and make sure that in this process, that everybody that is affected by this as much as possible has had their time to chime in about this.
And Mr. Williams, the next question, what would your specific approach be to the drug and mental health crisis in our community?
Okay, well, our first step was 2 years ago, I believe. I brought forth the fentanyl resolution to our council, which directed the city to prioritize the fentanyl effect. In my opinion, we have an amazing system of dealing with people that provides treatment opportunities and other options that keep people from going to jail. To me, it's having things like the drug court in our municipal court system, all of the teams, the Grace and Lead and the Hot Team and all of that helps people deal with their reality, but hopefully moves them in a positive direction to recovery. We're looking at future things like the what was mentioned, the Dijwalik program. Started out with them sending 2 portable drug treatment units, and now I believe it's going to be 3. And we need to keep growing programs like that.
And Ms. Burnside, what specifically would be your approach to the drug and mental health crisis in our community?
This is a really important topic. And first off, I want to, if you're not familiar with the program that Skip just mentioned, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to the Swinomish Nation. They brought this. We didn't seek this out. They said, we're going to give you this gift, and it's this amazing treatment facility. And we really need to thank them that they are assisting with this. Also, the impact, the changes that both Mayor Lund has made and the city staff had made are noticeable. I spend a lot of time downtown, and I see it's a huge difference, and we're seeing the progress. And when you look at the reports for the emergency response, our drug-related responses are way down, as well as the deaths. So the city is making significant improvements and progress. The piece, the lead, Art, Grace, those are all fantastic programs that we, keep doing and doing more. The piece that I run into as an advocate for affordable housing and a organizer of the Bellingham Tenants Union is individuals that lose their housing, no fault of their own. They simply were priced out, and they were struggling with drug addiction. 100% of them, when I check back into them with them, once they've lost their housing and had that stress of being homeless, even though they're working, they end up using again, losing their jobs, and it's a downward spiral. We need affordable housing.
Thank you so much. And the next question dovetails with what we've been talking about, and Ms. Burnside will let you start. The programs that are envisioned for our future to focus on behavioral health issues that will divert people from jail will require a workforce of professionals who do not currently live in our community. What do you see as the role of government to attract this workforce to Bellingham and to find them housing?
I have a feeling you know my answer already. We're experiencing this. It's difficult to get people to move here in jobs with skills that we need because it's too expensive. Bellingham for renters is the #1 most expensive city our size in the state of Washington and the 4th most expensive in the United States. We didn't get here overnight. We have not met this challenge of a lack of affordability, both in buying homes, pathways to home ownership, but increasingly for renters, which is the majority of Bellingham, it has exploded in a way that people just cannot afford to live and work here. We need, first and foremost, housing that people can afford. We can get there by making it a priority, focusing on land trust, bringing back the Public Development Authority, Habitat for Humanity, increasing capacity with organizations like Rockworth Northwest, which do resident-owned communities. We can convert our existing housing stock is where we can bring housing online quicker and faster by turning multifamily rentals into co-ownerships, communicating better the programs that do exist, like our house sharing program. I don't know how many people are aware of that, but that's existing housing with spaces available that we need people who own the home and renters to participate in a good match. Thank you.
And we're going to have our final question, starting with you, Ms. Burnside, which is...
Did Skip get to answer that question?
Let me say, I appreciate the help. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Williams, before we get to the final question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The programs that are envisioned to focus on behavioral health issues that will divert people from jail and will require a workforce of professionals who do not currently live in our community. What do you see as the role of government to attract this workforce to Bellingham and to find them housing?
Well, as has been said by all of us, the major problem is the lack of housing that is affordable. But there's another piece that goes with that, and that is, how do we build an economy here that brings in people that can make adequate income to be able to afford to live here. And those options and those types of things are basically, we need to grow our industrial economy so that people can come up here and make an adequate living and find housing that they can afford. So I'm going to stop there.
So we do have time for one more question, and this ties us into the larger national picture. And we'll start with you, Mr. Williams. Last week's letter from Attorney General Bondi to Governor Ferguson puts into question federal dollars that Bellingham relies on for many projects that are a part of the budget. These federal funds are an uncertain revenue stream, and what adjustments should be made to the budget to account for this uncertainty?
Well, I think our first effort is to see if we can keep those federal cuts from happening. And as I mentioned before, we're at the very, very beginning stages of that. But we have received an injunction on one of the administration's letters that are going to keep some of that funding in place. Part of us making cuts, like I said, is we're at the very beginning stages of looking at that picture, but my values are maintaining as much as we can about what we are already funding and doing, protecting jobs for our employees, and fighting the administration's attempts to take that funding away from us.
And Ms. Burnside, the final answer is yours today. So for the final question, last week's letter now from Attorney General Bondi to Governor Ferguson puts into question federal dollars that Bellingham relies on for many projects that are a part of the budget. These federal funds are an uncertain revenue stream, and what adjustments should be made to the budget to account for this uncertainty?
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we rely on a lot of block grants that come from the federal government that then get passed through to organizations like DVSAS, our food bank, Opportunity Council, Lydia Place, just to name a few of those. That funding is now, we need to prepare as if that funding is going to go away. We need to get lean and mean with our budget, look at where we can cut back, and we want definitely to protect core services, making sure our emergency response is able to still provide the excellent quality service that they do. We want to put a freeze on hiring so that we are not looking at doing layoffs later. Can we backfill necessary work with existing people? We'll need to get creative in those ways. And then again, it's a rally cry out to this community. I grew up here. I've seen us overcome significant challenges. And I know this community is resilient, and there's a lot of talent here. And we need to get creative and start looking at how can we help each other? How can we help our neighbors? Can I volunteer to help building a tiny home? Can I donate to the food bank? Not just round up to the nearest dollar at the grocery store, but make a monthly contribution. Can I, what can we do? And then go bigger, because as a community, we can do this. It's not going to be easy, but we can do this. Thank you.
Well, thank you to both of the candidates. And thank you to all of you for coming today. I hope you found this as important a conversation as I did, and return on the 4th Wednesday of next month to hear from the other county council candidates and the other city council candidates. Thank you.